Welcome back. This is our staff meeting with Public Service Department. And on our agenda, of course, Public Service Director Mike Moss. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, commissioners. I haven't seen you guys for a few weeks. We've got a few items today. We're going to start off with building and planning with Tracy Jackson, the director there. It says BPAC update, but she has a couple items underneath that category for an update.
Good morning, commissioners. So when we had our Building and Planning Advisory Council meeting last week, we've got great momentum. And we talked to them about currently we have a third-party review for plan review. We've got two companies. One does more single-family dwelling, the other one does more of our commercial. And right now they're just as needed. But we would like to do a planning services RFQ, get a company on board, just see if if we can get response, but get interest out there. I don't want a big project to come in the door and us not be able to have the staff or the expertise to get that project out. And I do not want to hinder development in our county at all. And so the BPAC is very supportive of us going out for an RFQ. I'd like to get one that also has geotechnical services for more like a peer review that we could utilize when needed to, because we do not have that expertise on staff. So it's a kind
So
of
we
a
would end up with
combination.
3 consultants
No,
that
it
we
would
could
be,
refer to.
the planning services also they do geotechnical reviews too. They can do both. We would just look for that specialty. It would be general planning review and then with the geotechnical services, aspect of that. It'd just be, so we would have one for planning and then we would keep the two just on call as needed, have them in our back pocket if we need them.
Probably not the phrase to use.
Well, we're hoping to need them.
I mean, having anybody in your back pocket's not a good thing.
When they do the review, they'd have the ability to stamp or approve whatever needs to be approved.
That's correct.
It wouldn't have to go any further than that.
Nope, that is correct. That is what I'm looking for, that kind of
Okay.
one-stop shop, where then they can take, like I said, the peer review, they can take the stamp, and if there's any questions on that, just take them for their stamp value and not have to continue to do additional reviews.
Yeah, because it doesn't do us much good if we send it out and then we feel we have to look at it again,
Right,
right?
right.
Okay.
If it's a project that has to go before the planning commission, that will certainly be the review. You'll still have that kind of review for compliance. But you don't have the experts to do the check off.
Right,
Yeah.
right, correct.
Okay.
But planning commission is more of the land use
Mhm.
type applications, where this is just the permitting that comes in the door.
Yeah, I think this is analogous to some of the folks that Millennium paid for an independent
correct.
review.
That's correct.
But that project was certainly reviewed at other appropriate
Yep,
bodies, so.
Yep.
um,
We had a company on board for that, but this would just be a company that the county does the contract with, and that they work for us.
Any other questions?
The goal here for doing this is to save immediate taxpayer money or to save time?
It could be both.
It could be both.
It could be both. It could be more of a one-stop shop instead of a back and forth just among staff, or yes, it could be both.
So your driver, in this case though, is there a preeminent one? I'm assuming you're trying to get stuff out faster.
Yes, that's ideally the hope.
I know one of the things that Ted Sprague has mentioned that puts applications in Washington State at a bit of a disadvantage is the review process is cumbersome. And this could be a tool to make that more efficient and effective.
That's the ultimate goal down there, is to
Not to
literally,
it's not designed to take shortcuts and.
no,
you know,
not at all. We still
the
have to
environmental
comply with
reviews.
state code. We just would like to streamline processes.
And you'll be collecting data along the way to compare before and after?
Yes. Yes.
What took you so long?
Yeah, if I'm all for streamlining the process and moving this quicker, so.
I'll
I-
get with purchasing and we'll work on getting an RFQ out
Yeah.
and seeing what kind of statements of work we can get.
I'd continue to look at all our rules and see ones that could go away too.
That's at the
just me.
state level.
Yeah.
Commissioner, that's at the state level.
Well,
Let's see, another thing that our Building and Planning Advisory Council, we talked about is our current permitting system, Acela. That was purchased and the contract was done before my time down there. We have no maintenance contract in place whatsoever today at all. We paid for a system, they delivered it, it's working. We have a lot of workflow, day-to-day stuff that we don't have access to. We don't have means to get what we need done for efficiency reasons. And I would like to move forward with a GSA contract for our Acela program. So we have somebody that if the system's not working behind the scenes, we have resources available at our disposal on the West Coast that we can call and get answers for, help with. We don't have that right now. We have no expertise on staff. We have a application specialist currently on staff that is very familiar with Acela, but does not have the expertise that a programmer would have. And we need that expertise. There's a lot of things that when the system was delivered to us was not complete. Many items. So we have stuff that we need for the day-to-day work, and then we have the wish list stuff that we would like to have done. But the day-to-day stuff is the driver of this request. The request, it's about $12,000 to $15,000 for the whole entire year for the support for us to have about 80 hours of consulting time if needed. And that's an if needed, it would be a not to exceed and it would be only as needed. We feel like in the first couple months, we would utilize them for the full 80 hours. But then after that, it would be more as an ad needed, more to take off some of the wish list items to work, streamline some workflow stuff. When we get applications and they need to go to Public Works right now, it's kind of a really convoluted system of how they receive those applications. And it would be nice if we could just let somebody know, hey, there's an application to be reviewed instead of, they don't need to see the whole list. They just need to see what they're working on. So this would be a way to help efficiencies downstairs as well as give me some kind of backup for that software system that we've purchased into.
So don't we have another office that uses Acela to?
We have environmental health unit and they are currently without any kind of backup and they do not have an application specialist on their staff at all. So what we would like to do is get this, if I'm being selfish
think
for
the
me.
The department does. Didn't they just get Kristen Young?
That she's not their application. Jeremiah was their application
Oh,
specialist.
before you stole them?
And then they had IT stole that person and now they had an offer out, but the board withdrew that position. So they don't have a backup at all. And they would be interested in this, but I was asking just for us and then they can piggyback on ours if they would like to utilize the same outfit. But I need it just for my day-to-day, just so we have somebody that we can call if this system goes down, the system goes down and I have nobody. IT does not support the system at all. And I did not know that going into this at all. I had no knowledge of this. So our IT department does not, we're a standalone system.
so this software does what you need. You just can't utilize everything it is capable
Exactly.
of doing for you.
Exactly. And I would like to utilize not only more than it has to offer, but just get a backup in place in case, it does go down. We will have some problems and I do not want to stop any permitting from coming in the door. That is our bread and butter for this county. And I want to continue to let the applications come in. Miss anything?
Well, contract is usually much cheaper than a body sitting there to do all that for you.
That's what he said.
It's interesting. We had a discussion an hour ago about separating people out, doing things in their own departments only. It sounds to me like this is an opportunity where perhaps that position or that contract can serve both offices. if the
It would,
need is
it
there.
will serve both offices. It's just, I'm looking at it selfishly for me and I'm asking for building and planning. But I know we can extend it to environmental health for their usage as well.
And you said it's our bread and butter, so you're gonna be able to finance it even for EHU.
Yes. Our permitting fees will more than cover it.
So I'm trying to figure out how to say this and be nice, and I'm not sure I know how to do that. The litany just goes on. I mean, we've been playing with this thing for as long as I've been up here, and that isn't very long compared to the existence of building and planning and all that kind of stuff. We have never really, or I have never heard or seen a vision statement here on how we should be doing things. It's almost like we're a Microsoft shop today, tomorrow we'll be an Apple shop, and maybe after that, after we spend another $1 trillion, we will become a Microsoft office again. And I know that you're just fairly, I mean, you're new in the situation. You're not new to the concepts, and the concepts that you are trying to press are appropriate. You're talking about survival. I'm saying we should have never been in this kind of position.
I agree.
And I hope that in terms of all these 5-year plans and transportation plans, a big thing, we actually have a plan that says we know what the services layout is for software or this kind of thing, and then we will be on this path. It is a little treacherous sometimes to try to do that, but we continually floundering, and I think that falls on our heads for allowing that to continue. I'm okay with this, but I'm not happy with it, and I'm not happy not because of what you're doing, but because of where we are now, based on a history of what I would call brutally incompetence.
Yeah.
No,
It is surprising because I don't know that we've ever worked I'm trying to remember a software contract that didn't include a service.
Right.
I agree.
Along
I've never
with it,
seen
so-
anything like this.
So I was quite surprised to hear this and why we would do that.
You
So
and I both.
I
I've had
agree
some
with that.
sleepless nights.
Yeah, and that is correct. It's usually 15% of the current sale price annually
Yep.
is what the.
Yeah.
And this was a kind of one and done, and here it was.
Yeah.
And
But
so we're working on a conversion
My
plan as
focus
well.
is we were without Acela, and I don't know what we had, but then we were on Laserfish and this and that. And the thing that a fundamental thought for you to keep in mind is always that data belongs to you. If it's in Acela and you cannot get access to it without Acela, then they own you. We
Yep.
should never be in a situation where the data is not clearly in the hands and usable by the county.
So Tracy, as you ask your staff why we got into this situation, did it relate to the previous administration's desire to create all the documents ourselves? That was when we were in love with Laserfish as the answer and the be all. And we gave the go ahead to do that. And then we discovered there was no way of getting the data mashing between the two systems, which created even more confusion. So then we jettisoned the Laserfish reliance, went back to Acela. But I guess we could do it in-house, and then those people left.
Right.
So if my memory serves me correct, that's kind of the fuzzy way of trying to solve it without doing what you're just proposing us to do to avoid the outside contract. But But I don't, I don't know. That's.
Yeah, I could talk for a bit on this. I'll try to not do that, but nothing ever gets done if the champions are treating this as it's just a job.
Mhm.
And that's what happened with the people before on the Laserfish. They were both uncommitted and ignorant. And they didn't even know their own limitations. And despite their promises, we did not hold them to their promises. We'll get it all done by June. Lots of Junes.
Okay.
And we just sit here and we let that happen. That's on us.
So we now have new leadership in the department. This is one of their first recommendations.
Well, they're what I call behind the eight ball on lots of things. They've got to stabilize out. And I think that's what they're trying to do. And I'm okay with that.
I am too. I share the frustration that we're even in this position to begin with, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with you.
Thank you.
All right. Next. Public Works.
Yeah, we're bringing up Susan Aginas, the county engineer, to talk about the guardrail contract. We have a change order on the agenda tomorrow. I'll let her explain why we jumped up 22,000. I think it's due to some damage.
So good morning, gentlemen. Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. So this is the third and will be final change order for our unit bid guardrail contract. So we went out to bid for this in 2021 to set up a contract. So when we have damage to our guardrails caused by errant drivers, to put it nicely, we could call this contractor up multiple times, and once we had a decent list, to go out and make these repairs. So this last change order, we just finished up his last round, which is the last round on the contract, for a contract increase of $22,000 to cover what has been damaged by our drivers. The history of this is change order number 3. So the final contract is significantly higher than the original contract, because we had more damage over the life of the contract than what we anticipated. We do try to get our money back from the drivers when they have insurance. We send them a bill and we generally get back what we're paying. And we do that based on this contract amount.
Yeah, you know where I live out West Side Highway, and it's not county maintained, but I cannot believe how many times those things are hit. What the heck is up with these people? It amazes me. I go on. Anyways,
We had one section of guardrail in the Castle Rock area that they went out. It was one of the first things that they did. They were working through the list. And before they were gone, that same section had been hit. So we added back on for them to go back and repair it again.
it's
So-
got to be bumper cars running down there at times.
So, and something like this, if I were to crash into a guardrail, am I responsible for the damage to the guardrail?
Yes,
So this is in addition to what you can claim, or this is just, you have no hope of recovering?
this is what our contract amount is. So items in this contract, we claim, and then when we get paid
Oh,
for
got
them,
it.
it just
Okay,
goes
thank you.
back into the road
Yeah.
fund.
Okay.
So most of the time we're made whole. We got not, yeah, I know you're never going to get whole, but you're better than what this indicates when you just look at the contract.
You can't bill if you can't see the wreck, right?
Correct. If
So, I
people
mean,
don't report it, we have to just repair them. So.
It's those spontaneous crashes that occur, right? Miraculously, right? Okay, so you sounded a little apologetic when you said it's up significantly more. Is that because all of a sudden there's a new spate of things, or it's just another year and we constantly add each year to the workload on what we expected?
It's just an adding of what we expected. We're up 22,000 for this last round, But the overall contract increase is $236,220 over the life of the contract. So about 2 years of the contract, we almost doubled the contract. That's how many more were hit than what we anticipated.
And then, so what are the highway safety standards to address, especially if it's the same thing as getting hit all the time? What are the strategies that you can use to counter that?
So the strategies, there's always public education. There's trying to convince people to drive slower, not go out on icy days. If we could do a road reconstruction project to flatten the slope to make it recoverable so that you wouldn't need guardrail, you can change some of your radiuses for your horizontal and vertical curves. You can try rumble strips along the edge line if the road's wide enough. Those are some countermeasures instead of the guardrail. But then you also think about it, well, the guardrail was doing his job. If the guardrail wasn't there, they might have gone down into the ravine. So it's
Well, they
trade-off.
might have been more careful,
That's true.
like the $1 million highway in Colorado. You know. Of course, if you go over that, they're never gonna find you.
Okay,
Mm,
thank you. We think of other questions we have tomorrow to have.
it's-
Awesome. And the winter schedule.
Yeah, just a quick update. As you know, we've had some weather items the last week, continuing this week. Our crews are out each day at 5 a.m., working with the school districts, making sure roads get open. Had one day of snow last week that we had a 15-hour day. Our crews came in also yesterday, worked a pretty long shift, a little bit of snow in the higher elevation, which is great for us. We got a big jump on this morning that way with yesterday's crews out. So we only had one school district, Toutle Lake, that was 3 hours later. Everybody else, I think, was on time. There's a few snow routes for schools, but the forecast is looking very similar all week, where it's
Yeah,
a little wet in the daytime, but right at freezing in the evening time. So I expect a pretty long week, a lot of overtime for staff, just FYI.
So this includes Fridays. We're working Fridays. too.
Yeah,
We
actually, the
don't
road
have a-
crews are still on 5/8 till the first part of April, then they'll go on 4/10. So they're actually scheduled for Fridays at this
When
point.
did they go to the 5/8?
I believe it was October.
Okay.
So yeah, October
Okay.
through April usually is our 5/8 schedule. Usually because of the daylight hours we've got.
Okay. I'd forgotten that. Any other questions about the winter schedule? All right. Thank you. Next up, I think facilities.
Yeah, our next item is UPS batteries at the Hall of Justice. It's on the agenda tomorrow. Actually, I believe it's a motion item. I'll just we'll give you a quick update and be available tomorrow also to talk about it. Actually, it's not, it's on the consent tomorrow. So that's the main reason he's here to talk. Sure. Yeah.
All right, Will Tosted, Facilities Manager here. We went out and got 4 bids for the replacement batteries at the Hall of Justice. It's a UPS system. Right now, it primarily serves 911, records, sheriff's office, and it's there to stabilize if the power goes out and until a generator kicks on. There's about 108 batteries. I think it was set for replacement every 5 years. It's been about 7 years, so it's needed to be done. We also had an issue about a month and a half ago. One of the batteries started to swell, so we're currently on temporary operation down there until we get this replaced.
Just for the sake of those listening in, perhaps, we're not talking about the delivery of packages, the acronym.
Correct. Uninterrupted power supply.
Uninterrupted power supply. Thank you.
And the low bidder came in for battery power solutions at $30,611.73. Any questions?
That's good for another 20 years since the last time we made the purchase. 5.
About 5.
Yeah, what kind of batteries?
That's a good question.
And.
I think Eaton, if I remember correctly, is the system. And I think the batteries are the same. But I don't have that answer off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I see that some engineering hasn't been done. How long does it take for the, on this, the generator to come online?
Can you repeat that?
How much time does it take for the generator to come online?
Average of 30 seconds, I think.
Okay, so we can take 30 seconds, bump it up to a minute if you want, figure out what your drain is for those important things and figure out if the 108 is adequate or not, or it's way too much or not. And then most, I'm trying to remember what cell sites use for batteries, but if you had told me these were lead acid batteries from a car type, I would have said, yeah, that's probably the right thing. At 30,000, we've got $500 a battery, no, $300 a battery. I assume that that's installed, taking the old ones out and all that.
Correct.
Okay, and then I worry a little bit about statements that are, well, it's been there 7 years, so it's time to replace them. I think the thing I would look at, you said some of the batteries were swelling. Now, a lot of these batteries I don't know how it is today, and I don't know how old the system is, but when my cell phone runs low, it lets me know. I mean, do we have any metrics on this thing? Do we know that, is it based on clock or performance of some kind?
I didn't hear the first word you said. I just heard
Based-
performance.
Based on,
Oh, clock.
clock, oh,
Um,
you haven't gotten your oil changed in the last 3 months, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it's based off of. I
Yeah.
do know that there is a screen on there and it says, running at 78% capacity or 93% capacity, whatever that number is. And there's alerts that pop up when high load demand or low voltage alerts. And when we get those alerts, we would call in someone. I think there was a low battery or low voltage alert about a month prior before we had the battery issues.
Now, where does a low voltage alert come from? I mean, like a UPS stands there and it just stares at you. And only when you lose power is it going to do something. But they do have some ongoing background checking. We need to understand, you need to understand those pretty well. Again, so a vision, whether we're doing the right thing here, find 108, I have no idea. But in any event, we are where we are.
Mr. Dahl, questions?
I think Arn covered a lot of it.
Well, when you get an opportunity, you might want to, kind of look into those questions.
Yeah,
Or Nate,
definitely.
Is that enough, or do we need to know? The other thing is technology has changed quite a bit too, and I don't know how recent the model is that you're buying. Are they selling us, old technology? Are there some more efficiencies? And I mentioned that because we continue to get notices from requests for funding, notice of funding, that there's a whole bunch of infrastructure funds available for a whole host of things, and that, especially with energy and energy efficiencies, there might be some new opportunities to make some changes. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Other than that, I think we're okay to go forward with it. Again, That'll be on the consent agenda tomorrow. All right.
And then, enough, okay.
All right, so that moves us to the next item is architectural services. We went out for RFQ. We got 5 or 6.
Actually, I'll start this up. I actually gave you guys a cheat sheet that we got from Ashley Clausen from our purchasing department. As Will was saying, we went out for for requests for qualifications for engineer or architectural. Our last contract with Jacola ended in December of this last year. As you can tell, the top lines there, we got 8 proposals back of 8 firms from around the state. The second set of bullet points is how we evaluated those qualifications. We had members from facilities, purchasing, but we also had public works. We had Susan on that same committee. Susan looks at a lot of engineering and qualification contracts that come through our door. So I want to make sure she is on board for the scoring of this. And the third set of points down there, one shows you the percentages of how we scored the top 4 companies. And so tomorrow on the agenda, we'll be discussing, or we'll have on the agenda for us to actually start negotiations, do a bid award with Collins Architectural Group. They're based locally here out of Longview, which would be great for us to have a local firm to work with. They've had a lot of buildings around here that they've worked on in the county that you may have noticed, and we'll bring those up tomorrow. But our recommendation is to move forward with Collins and start negotiations with them.
All right.
If I were to press each of the evaluators, they would be able to answer me what's the difference between Collins and Jacola?
Yes. Susan's definitely be able to.
All right.
You want to sit there?
Collins has a lot of experience in public buildings around the community already, so.
Yes, Collins has a lot of local experience. They've worked for PUD doing some of their buildings, the Port of Kalama. They've done a lot of work for the Kelso School District, so they are very involved in this community and community buildings. Those are the ones I remember off of the top of my head. So Collins is very invested in this community and wanting to do good for this community.
Were they a respondent last time?
That I do not know.
No, Jacola was the only respondent last time.
Do you understand what the difference is between then and now?
There were some specific changes made in the request for qualifications that I worked with Ashley based on some of the comments that we received from the architectural firms the last time it went out.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. That helps.
Well, those expectations must have made a difference. If you had only 1 person respond last time and 8 this time.
Yeah.
I like seeing that. And I like seeing it's a local company. But I'll have to-
And just for the engineer and you and me, 87.65. Spare me. How about just 88?
You would be very interested in seeing the scoring sheets because that is the average. I have been told that I am very harsh. My lowest score came out through this process. I believe it was 25, or was this the one that I got a 0 on? So I can be very rigid, but a lot of it, especially when you get, so we go through and we score the proposals that they send in, and then you do the interviews. And so especially on the paper, to me, the difference between an 85 and an 87 is next to nothing. But then when you get a better feel when you do the interviews and ask, will I throw out some oddball questions to get a better feel for the architects? Like, what is your dream project? And you get a wide range of reactions on my dream project is basically the Taj Mahal, or my dream project is rehabbing a building and making it more functional, you know. So it's a matter of how they approach projects and how they mesh with the county feel, and you get that much better in the interviews than you do on the paper. So the paper, you weed out the people that you don't think have any ability to do the job. And then you go through with the interviews and you get are they going to be able to do the job, the Cowlitz County, and to give Cowlitz County what they need?
Did each of the evaluators fill out the same weighting functions or same categories?
Yes, it's a standard scoring sheet across the board. Everybody has the same
See,
scoring
that
sheet.
that seems to me to be doomed to add noise. I mean, one of the things I'm very happy that is that you're on it, because I know you're going to look past a lot of the advertising. And that's very good for me. I think other people on there probably would take a look at some of their administrative handling of things. And others would, in combining with everybody else, judge the quality of the presenter. Is he believable? Is she believable? That kind of thing. But so everybody answering, like, other than you, I'm not sure I believe anyone else's engineering evaluations. Yet they alloy the numbers. Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
No,
All right, thank you. Appreciate the hearing about the process.
And the last
Yeah.
item we have for you today is a gun range
Actually,
update.
I just
I'm sorry.
go back to that. Yeah, no, my fault. Thank you. When the chairman said, thank you for the process update. That's the right stuff.
Thank you. So at the gun range, we're still working on RCO grant number 1, which is for the trap houses, I should say. Currently, our staff has trenched for the power and worked with yes, sorry. PUD to get the power and a meter in at the trap houses. We're actually getting ready to get that approved so we can fill in those trenches up there. We've got the curb stops in after we chip sealed the oil rock their parking lot this last year. So we're moving forward, hopefully finishing phase 1. The trap houses bids came in last week. They're actually on the agenda tomorrow. I believe it's right around $95,000 for those 2 trap houses, which is very close to what we estimated at. So we do have money to cover that through the RCO grant, and it's already been approved through you guys as a board.
So the grant covers 50%. We cover
50%,
the other half.
exactly right.
yeah.
So I think the estimate we got last year was around 97,000. So this came right in where we anticipated, which is great. Phase 2 is for restrooms. And so last week, Alyssa Dunn and Steve Nelson from Cowlitz Game and Anglers presented to RCO the presentation, and was well received for moving forward with restrooms out there. That will be awarded hopefully in July. So we'll find out in July if we ever move forward with phase 2. So this summer we'll hopefully finish phase 1 and then be able to work on phase 2, which would be summer of 2024.
So you have restrooms out there by the meeting room, right?
That's
now?
exactly right. Yes. Yeah.
That's a little ways away from the trap.
Yeah. The trap house is
A
quite
little ways, but
probably about a quarter of a mile, I would guess. So 1/3 of a mile over to the trap houses.
so will it be a similar type of indoor facility, or is it similar to what we have at Gardner Park?
It's a mobile unit, or it's not, I would say mobile, but it's not, it's already pre-built, precasted. Yeah. But it's a
Precast
true restroom, not a pit toilet. So it'll be hooked up to septic and
septic
water.
tank, okay.
Yes.
I think last time I heard this summer, you were doing the precast outhouse for the new park.
Yeah, Cal Weeman, correct. Yes.
Is that still on track? I
Uh,
haven't heard anything about it.
Last I talked to Alyssa, still on track moving forward. That's actually how we got the pricing for this grant, was from those bathrooms that we've already looked into. So as far as I know, we were moving forward on that.
Thanks. All right, so big trap shoot ceremony in September?
We're hoping, yeah. A lot of schools are looking forward to having it out there too with their, right now, I believe we currently have Castor Rock and I believe Kelso, but there's other school districts. I think Woodland has a fairly large trap team also that likes to utilize it.
Okay.
Great. Super.
That's it from us, unless you guys have some miscellaneous items this morning. Yes, sir.
About the gun range.
I
Where
can't
do-
tell if that smile is that, no, he finally doesn't have a question, or, oh, you bet I have a question.
A question regarding the gun range and the work on a Leo element at the gun range. How's that working out?
The law enforcement side, yes,
Yeah.
actually, we meet tomorrow with Game and Anglers and the Sheriff's Office. We have a meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. to how we're moving forward. I believe there needs to be an agreement in place for them to be able to, the Sheriff's Office to either sublease or what they're going to do through the Game and Anglers to be able to lease out space or time slots to agencies to utilize a 100-yard range. It's currently open now for them to use. The Sheriff's Office is actually shooting out there, but there's a lot of other agencies that also want to shoot out there since Crystal Pool is kind of a challenge to get to at the winter months.
Is that the new gun range there?
Yes,
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's all been built, the permits,
Yeah, it's
everything
done.
went fine.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's the 100-yard range is for the Sheriff's Office. It's not open
Yeah.
for the public, yeah.
Is who heads the Game and Anglers? Is that still Steve?
Yeah, Steve Nelson, I believe he's the lawyer for them that we work with, but I don't know exactly the name of the president or the vice president. We mainly deal with Steve Nelson. Oh, he's also the secretary treasurer.
Okay, and no,
No, I was gonna, I had another, I did have a miscellaneous item, but if it's not related to gun range, so go ahead.
no, you go ahead after you.
I got approached last week about the Humane Society's contract. I believe last few years has been worked through with the chief of staff. So they reached out to see who maybe should be working with that negotiations or the new contract with the county. So I told them to go ahead and work with me to start with, and I can work with a commissioner. I don't know who the liaison is directly with the Humane Society from the three of you, but I want to make sure that's, you got your approval to start with, start the negotiations, or at least to start the talks with Darren Ullman over at the Humane Society.
I think they picked the right person to go to.
Yeah, if you want, I'd be glad to help.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then, so I had emailed you earlier about Memorial Drive. I just think updating the commissioners would be useful on that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah, Memorial Drive. My ears are plugged this morning.
I know
Memorial
the
Drive is
feeling.
out by Mount Solo. It's mainly it's a city road, but we do have a small section of county road there. They had a lot of dumping of garbage and vehicles over the years. I don't know if it's 2021 or 2022, the county or the city put a gate at that location. We also have a lock on that gate in case we need access. I believe about last month or so, the gate was smashed and actually kind of removed from that location. Commissioner Mortensen reached out to us. I reached out to the city. They plan on placing a new gate the week of March 6th. If it's a heavier duty gate, we did give them our contact information that the company that we get gates built from, they're the same company that builds them for warehouses, so they're good logging road gates. So we'll see exactly what they install, but they may need to put something a little bit beefier out there if it keeps getting vandalized, so people will stop dumping at that location.
Is there any reason why the road isn't vacated?
That might be a county engineer question. I have no idea if it's on the list to get vacated from us to them or.
I mean, there's.
Turned over?
The city
Yes,
doesn't
we
do
have
any repairs on it.
No, they
and
do
it
not.
Doesn't really serve
No.
any function that I know of, other than it was somebody's dream at one time.
I believe it was somebody's dream at one time and they still use that road to access that dream, but we have never been approached to vacate our portion of it.
Because who would be the person to vacate it? It's like, nobody owns it, and it's kind of like never land. We don't put any money into improvements, the little tiny section that we have.
No, we have not worked on that road for a while. I would think that it would have to be, somebody would approach either the city or the county or the combination, and then we'd have to work together at the same time to, because it would make no sense to vacate the front part, not the last part, or vice versa.
It kind of has sloughs on both sides.
Yes.
And it's not a key, I mean, they built the industrial way route, the state highway farther to the south, that used to serve that connector function, but it should be undone. But I was told the county doesn't undo roads, they just keep them. At a certain point, the costs of repairs and replacing and cleanup is money that we shouldn't be spending at all, because it shouldn't be existing. So at least from my perspective, I'm okay with saying abandon it.
So I'm a little confused there. If people are dumping trash there, I think we ought to do whatever we can to prevent that. And so I'm first not asking, is it county property or city property? I'm asking, shouldn't we do something about that? I think the answer was yes, it's something that's being done.
Yeah, correct.
And I do encourage a more beefy gate such that when they crash their car into it, we can peel the car off the gate.
One end, right?
Correct.
So on the city end, the gate's still open.
I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what's on the other end.
I wouldn't be able to tell you either.
Yeah.
It's probably just a
It
mattress.
does, however, it does create a problem because people do use it in impaired conditions, and we hear about it because there's a car in the slough. I mean, that's when it hits the news, when there's a car that goes into the slough.
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying, we should give that to the city. It's just a donut hole or
Well,
something.
and I think basically that where the accidents always occur are in the city, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sort of have the west end where it kind of intersects with SR 432, yeah. So, anyway, I mean, it's just one of those roads that needs to be undone because it causes more problems than it's worth. That might get the Dyking District to be expressing interest in abandoning it.
So when you say undone, you mean just take out the road
Yeah,
completely?
just take a.
Oh, okay.
you know.
That's all right.
And undo the asphalt so people can't drive on it. Convert it into a place to collect.
Put a bunch of
Recycle or
Jersey
something.
blocks on there right now and that would do it.
Okay, well. Any other questions? And do you have any miscellaneous items for us?
No, I do not.
Okay, great.
I do. Sorry, no, that. I told, I think, one commissioner last week, that I'm in and out of the office a lot. I'm working more at ER&R, which is our equipment shop, or by Motor Pool on Tenant Way across from Washington State Patrol. Or Tallieway. I'll probably be there next 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've been there the last 2 weeks. I try to hit as many meetings as I possibly can from my own office. Susan and Savannah have been great picking up some of my other meetings. One of our hot spots when Savannah and I started 5 years ago was that shop, and try to be a little more productive. We have great crew there, great lead there. We have no supervisor at that location. Just felt like they needed some direction. I think we made some great headway the last 2 weeks. So that we'll make that our home for a while. So if you stop by my office or call me, I have my call forward, my phone's forward to that other office, but just FYI, I'm not in the office as much. I may not be at all the meetings here as much as I would normally be for the next few weeks. So I think it's good for the crew. We have had some good feedback so far, and I've enjoyed being around the crew a little bit more. That's really the hot spot where people bring all their equipment in. So I get to see all the different crews come in, and we get to converse a little bit more rather than just Mike Moss in his office, but actually on a job site. So I think it's good for me and good for them. So FYI.
So what's the timeline for hiring a new? Dwayne. It was
Dwayne left, yeah,
Right, he
correct.
retired
Yep.
at the end of the year or
August.
back in August?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we'll move forward in the next few
Well, I
months.
think, Arn, didn't it take us 18 months to get a supervisor in building and planning?
Yeah, longer, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I have. Sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I don't see any hands up. I guess we can adjourn this meeting. Let the lady know.